All right. I just got to do my standard checks. You know how I am. I'm a clown. I can never do anything without double checking it. Well, it's live, so that's good. Let's make sure I've got audio. Yeah, all right. I will never not do tests. So if you don't like sitting through my tests, I'm sorry. Um, First of all, just so everybody knows, I do have an ad timer up. There is an ad starting soon. I will try to remember to give warnings for people about ads. If you're watching on Twitch, on YouTube, I can't help you. If you've got ads, I can't do anything about that, and I'm sorry. But on Twitch, I can. There we go, live chat. We got both the chats going. Let's go. So today, yeah, let's go, dude. I woke up late also, but I didn't get home until, gosh, it had to have been 11:30. We were out playing all day yesterday, so it was pretty cool. Got to test run my list. Did a poll on YouTube. Drukhari won. Got about, I think it was like 90 votes. I'd have to double check, or somewhere between 80 and 90. And Drukhari barely won. And watching that poll was amazing because I just asked the community, what should I play? Should I play Inari or should I play Drukhari? And it was like every time I checked, the other one would be in the lead, and then the other one would be in the lead. And it was never a landslide. It was always really tight. And Drukhari won with, I think, like 55 to 45 was the split. So I got a list together. Sorry for the coughing. Again, I just woke up and it's like we still have air quality issues because of the fires going on in Canada. Let me try that. There we go. So it's one of those where I'm still kind of like but got to test run my list. Did 3 games. I got some interesting data out of the 15ish games I've played with Drukhari so far, because I use the Tabletop Battles app to track my scoring and stuff, and that lets me get a lot of good data. And that tells me where my weaknesses are, what I need to do to kind of change or tweak my game to improve. Yeah, okay. Now, first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the list. We're going to talk about what it's supposed to do, and we're going to talk about whether or not it's doing it, and then we're going to talk about some issues that I've run. I like both. They're very different. I like that bringing Drukhari in Ynnari isn't as punishing now in the index as it was in 9th edition. Like losing the power from pain invuln on all my units, in addition to not having anything else, just like really hurt them. Whereas at least now the invulns are on the data sheet, so I don't have to worry about it. I did notice that I missed having the pain tokens, but it was kind of made up for by the increased mobility and better strat support. So, but I like Drukhari. I'm gonna keep doing it, do my thing. It's a lot of fun. So we're gonna start with the characters. I do have the Archon. Again, I cannot stress enough. This dude is an auto take to me. He just brings so much to the table, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time on him just because, again, we've talked ad nauseum about this stuff. That's not the right word. Archon. But the main thing is he's got Labyrinthine Cunning. So on a 4-up, I get a CP refunded, right? And it's automatic if I use it on the Alliance of Agony. And then he's got the Devious Mastermind. Once per battle, when your opponent uses a stratagem for the rest of the game, increase the cost of that stratagem by 1. Now, that is the main reason he's in here. That is so good because we're T3 bodies if you're running infantry, right? And I do. I love infantry. So if I can make your Overwatch, the ad's going to start in a minute if you're watching on Twitch, just to give you the heads up. The T3 bodies. I can't stress enough how susceptible we are to Overwatch. It just destroys us. So I have used that for Overwatch more than any other strat just so I'm not getting punished for playing the game in my own turn. I've talked a lot about how I think Overwatch needs a rework or some kind of nerf. I am not going to implement anything on it yet in my events. I'm going to give Games Workshop time to fix some of their issues. If we don't get them fixed, then I will be going ahead and making my own terrain or GT packet so that my events can be a little bit more balanced. Because even after the points hikes, towering and indirect still going to be all over the place. Still going to be a problem. Points hikes aren't going to fix it. They will help tone it down a little bit, but it's not fixing the inherent issue. And I don't think they wanted to fix it. I think they wanted to band aid it while they figured out the best approach to fix it. But that's speculation. I don't know. So the Archon, he's going in cab lights. Big shock, right? I've got Drazar. Again, for me and the way I play, Drazar is an auto take. He might not be an auto take for you. I am a fight first player. So I am very loath to relinquish my melee units, even though this edition so far has been much more about shooting. Um, I cannot I cannot speak to how invaluable Drazar has been. I got hit with a gotcha playing a Craft World player yesterday, and it wasn't intentional. I know the guy. I've played with him a bunch of times. I know it wasn't intentional, uh, but it's one of those where it instantly pissed me off because it's like, man, had I known that was an interaction, like I just wouldn't have done it. And what happened was I shot his Wraith unit, and it was a Wraith Guard unit, and I shot it with whatever. I don't. It doesn't matter. I shot it with something, and he was like, "Well, it's gonna shoot you back," and I was just like, "Fuck," And again, I know it wasn't intentional. It's just one of those where there's too much stuff to remember playing against that army. So I just spent the rest of the army before I selected targets. I was like, is this going to shoot me on my turn? Is this going to shoot me on my turn? Is this going to move on my turn? Before I did anything, like, and he wasn't mad. Like, he gets it. He understands it. But it was just like I lost, I think, 2 units to the Wraithguard shooting because it was just like, well, I've got this 6, so you're just taking a d6 mortal wounds, and I got a successful wound, but I'm going to re-roll it to fish for the 6, so you're just eating 2d6 mortal wounds, and it was just like, okay. Um, but it's one of those, like I said, uh, they basically deleted 2 of my units, but then Drazar and the Incubi just cleaned them up. It was no contest. He went in, he cleared them out. Now, arguably, like, had I known that they shoot, yeah. Maximum Unga Bunga. That's right. On Twitch. Gotcha, buddy. And it's one of those. Had I known, I wouldn't have shot it to begin with. I would have just charged it because he didn't have line of sight for the Overwatch, and I would have just shot or charged it. He can still shoot on death, but it's pistols, and then he can only shoot my Incubi, and then I'm not losing the other 2 units. And so it's one of those where maybe he kills the Incubi, maybe he doesn't. I don't know. But at that point, I'm not losing things in the shooting phase before they even get to interact because I didn't realize that was a thing, right? So there's that. We got Drazar. He's an auto take. I love him. I will never not bring him. I bring 10 Incubi with him. They go in a Raider. Raiders are overpointed a little bit, but they can't be on the table. Again, there's too much indirect. There's too much towering. They need something to prevent being shot off the table. I bring the homunculus. I did cut my racks down to 5 instead of 10. I had a weird amount of points. We'll get into that in a little bit, but I had a weird amount of points to where I had like 35 points. And because of the way the game is pointed right now, I can't do anything with 35 points. Like, I'm running Lilith, so I can't give her an enhancement. The homunculus and the Archon already have an enhancement, so it's just wasted points. He has the Art of Pain. I just get an extra pain token in my command phase. Very good. Lilith, to me, and again, for the way I play, auto take. Hate that I have to bring witches for her, but she by herself is an auto take. And I'll give you two good examples why. She gets 8 attacks. She's strength, I think, 4, neg 2. Well, she's strength 3, neg 2, 1 damage, but she gets plus 1 strength, plus 1 AP while she's attached. So she goes to strength 4, neg 3. But then she's also anti infantry 2 plus, and she sustained hits 2. Um, I have not put her into an infantry unit where she hasn't by herself blended at least half of that unit. I hit a 20-man unit of Hormagaunts and empowered her, and she sustained hits 2 and just fished for 6s. And out of my 8 attacks, I did 22 wounds just from fishing for 6s. And she deleted the whole 22 model squad. Like, she is absolutely bonkers. I cannot stress that enough. And again, it did require me rolling. I think it was all 8 were 6s after fishing. Like, I'm not going to lie about it and be like, oh, she's so good because of this. Like, I had to get extremely lucky. But in order for, like, she did that without the witches even fighting, just because of lucky dice. So, I played a Necron player. He brought a brick of Lich Guard, and they were like, I'm going to reduce your AP, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. And she was just like, cool, pick up half the squad by herself. And he was just like, oh, this sucks. And I was like, yeah, she's very good. So, to me, again, she is an auto take. The fact that you have to take witches in order to keep her on the table sucks, because witches are just kind of poopy. We've had that talk. Let's take a look at my battle line. Cabalite Warriors. At first glance, I was like, these look really good, maybe a little expensive. These things are the bee's knees. Again, can't stress it enough. Sticky objectives, when you remember that you have it, is very good. And being able to combat squad them into Venoms is very handy. The Cabalite Warriors. So what I've been doing is putting the special weapons into the Venoms and then putting the Archon with the Splinter Rifles on the table. But I think I need to change based on my opponent, right? I may need to go ahead and put the Splinter Rifles in the Venom and then the special weapons on the table with the Archon if I'm in a position where I don't have to worry about the infantry getting shot off the table super quick. Like I said, I went down to a 5-man Arax because that 5-man took me down to 100 points, right? I had 10, and with 10 of them, the unit was very resilient. It was very good. They got picked up in one shooting phase one time so far, and that was against Votan, and that was my own fault. I hadn't played against Votan yet, and I just kind of underestimated their shot output in the shooting phase, and it took about 12 to 1300 points worth of shooting, but he did kill that squad. And that was with me like failing every save and well over half my feel no pains. It still took quite a bit. And so like I was really reticent to give that 10-man up, but like I said, I had 35 points hanging, so I ended up cutting them down to 5, and then that gave me 100 points, and we brought in a Ravager. And I had to choose between a Ravager, and I forget what the other thing I was looking at was. But it was either a Ravager. A Ravager or some Mandrakes. The Mandrakes have a lot of utility, but I just opted for the Ravager. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. It's either going to be good or it won't. And then the Witches. I did have the Witches actually like perform. They Lilith and the Witches again, and it's all because of Lilith. But I blended some Tyrant Guard, and then the Hive Tyrant got stuck in for like 3 turns with him because he didn't want to fall back. They don't affect him when he falls back, but he needed it to be able to shoot and do other things. And fortunately, like his shooting was just bad dice, right? He couldn't shoot them off the table because he got bad dice. More boat. That's right, boats and hoes. Yep, there goes the demonetization flag. uh, but it's one of those like it's been good, right? I -1 to hit him a couple times, or no, they're -1 to hit because he's a monster. That's what it was. And like he just had some bad dice. And then I was able to make some invulns in melee, and he was just like, oh, and he ended up getting stuck in with them for like 2 or 3 turns. And they just chip damage long enough for Drazar to come in with, his whole party crew. No, it was definitely my fault this time, Matt. But Drazar came in with his party crew, and they did what they do. Drazar, and again, it was dice, but he's got dev wounds, and I just did 9 mortal wounds to the Hive Tyrant after Lilith had already chipped some damage off of it. So it was just like, cool, man, pick it up. So it was pretty wild. Dedicated transport. We've got 1 Raider, 2 Venoms again. I've already explained to you how those go. I'm telling you, like the Raiders need to be like 60, 70 points. They just don't do enough. They have a single gun. Yeah, they're firing deck, but they lost everything that makes them special, unique, and or cool going into this, and they're effectively the same price. There's no Grizzly trophies. There's no shock prow. There's no splinter racks. There's no blade veins. Whatever it's called, where you get the bonus attacks. Their attacks went to 0 AP, which I'm not surprised by their attacks going to 0 AP because a lot of melee, especially, went down in AP. But it's like there's literally nothing in there to make them do anything but be an orc truck with fly, because that's all they are, is an orc truck with fly. And actually, the orc truck has a higher toughness and the same invuln. So it's like it has a higher toughness. It doesn't have fly. It's 50 points. I could make a strong case for the Raider going down to like 60, maybe 70. Venoms, I think, are not too crazy overpriced. I would probably drop them 10 points also. Again, they lost all the things that make them special outside of the splinter cannons. They don't have the Grizzly trophies or the chain snares. That's what it is, the chain snares. So it's like I'm paying for upgrades that I can't take. And they could probably drop maybe 5, 10 points. I don't think the transports are grossly overpointed. um, so if you're just getting into Drukhari, the combat patrol is an excellent place to start. If I remember right, it has 2 boats in it. Let me let's stop right here because we just talked about the transports. We'll jump over to the combat patrol and then we'll jump back. Because that's actually a great question, and if there's other people that want to know, Drukhari. And of course, it's out of stock. I needed combat patrol. Drukhari. If you can get your hands on this, this is a great place to start because you get 2 boats. You get, I think it's 10 Cabalites here, and then 5 Incubi and an Archon. So that is an excellent place to start because these boats can be built as the Transport or the Ravager. And then from there, that's where you add on. The Talos are awesome. Mandrakes are out of stock or out of print, so you'll have to proxy those. There's some good proxies in the AOS line that I use. But Mandrakes are good. Talos are pretty solid. If you're gonna get Talos, like keep in mind they're going to be financially just expensive because it's like $60 for a single model. But Talos are a great place to start. They're tanky. They look cool. They interact well with the game. They are probably going to get a points hike at some point if the rest of the army gets drops just to kind of like even everything out. But they're like the auto include right now. But I think Talos are exceptional. I like Rax a lot because of their resilience. And it really just, that's what I love about Drukhari is like they have a lot of different play styles. So it's really, what do you want? Do you want to be a shooting Drukhari? Then you want to get a lot of Cabalites and Raiders and Venoms and then support them with like your Talos and your other things and your Ravagers. If you want to play a more melee centric style, which I don't recommend right now, but maybe in the future, what you could do is start with Incubi and some Witches and then build out from there. So you let me know what your play style is and where you want to be in terms of how they interact with the game, and that would help a lot. But really, like I said, the Combat Patrol is an excellent place to start. Talos are an excellent place to start. And um, I like the Tantalus. Hard to get a hold of, but it's a silly unit that's a lot of fun to play with. I don't know that it's good either, but it wasn't good last edition towards late edition, and I was running one in leagues and tournaments and doing very well. So it's one of those where player skill can mitigate the downside to some of this stuff a little bit. So, but yeah, you let me know if you want to shoot, if you want to melee, or if you want to balance, and then I can kind of give you a little bit more suggestions and guidance. Drag ice. Dragice? You tell me. You spell it phonetically, man. I assume it's drag ice. I'm just being a smartass. For other for other data sheets, I've got 2 units of 5 Hellions. When they're in units of 5, you don't rely on them for damage output near as much. You're relying on them for utility. Now, they still will chip wounds and do damage because you can empower them. They can reroll hits and they get sustained hits. So, again, you can drown things in dice. So your power tokens, your pain tokens are going to be very important to your army if you didn't already know. And again, if you like melee, Hellions are also a great place to start. They aren't infantry, so they interact a little weird with terrain, but they're still pretty solid. They have assault weapons, so they can advance, and that's why they're in here. I can advance and do cleanse, or I can advance and do homers. I can 1 CP advance and charge if I need to try to get them into my opponent's deployment zone, and they leave me like a soft target for like behind enemy lines. They just have a lot of mobility and utility, so we've got 2x5 of those. Incubi, we already talked about those. The Ravager with 3 Dork Lances. Again, I just want to make sure I have the tools. We have like a couple players bringing some towering, high toughness stuff, and I just want to make sure I have tools for it, man. Um, Not interacting with Wraith Knights is not fun. It's not. So I've got 8 Heat Lances. It's just where I'm at. I don't care. Speaking of, 2x4 Scourges with Heat Lances, and then 1x2 of Talos. And I know I should probably bring more Talos. I should. I know this. Like, they are the auto take in the army right now. Um, First of all, I only have 3, and I don't want to bring a 2 and a 1. And the other thing is, I want to prep myself in the event that they get a points hike towards like later, just because they are very efficient and good. Let's see. Drag Ice. I love to have a few big things, and I enjoy sticky objectives. I love having like 2 melee units. Correct assumption. Dragging Ice. Gotcha. I own GSC and AdMech, so don't need Horde or just big tanks. Okay, so yeah, the Combat Patrol is going to be outstanding. Honestly, 2 of those would give you a very good foundation for your army because you can either build them as the Ravagers, which are like your anti-tank boats, or the Raiders, which are your transports. The Raiders, like I said, they're a little overpointed right now, but that'll get adjusted and fixed, so you don't have to worry about that. You'll get 20 Cabalites. You're going to want to build them all with each individual special weapon that you can, because and you'll need a couple Venoms, because the Venoms let you break them up, but you don't have to if you don't want to. You can just slap them in your transports as they are. But if you break them up, that allows you to give more things sticky objectives all over the place, so it's really cool. And when we get done, if you remind me when we get done, I'll come back around to the sticky objective thing and kind of break it down for you a little bit better. So that's where I'm at with my list. Let's talk about our first mission. Boop. It is Vital Ground. If you draw this in Hidden Supplies, blah, 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 after setting up the battlefield, so we will remove the objective mark. Oh, let's start with the deployment zone. That'll probably help you guys first. Let's move that down here. So this is our deployment zone. I forget what it's called. Let's zoom it in a little bit for you. So we'll have one objective in the middle. We'll have one objective out here. One objective in the deployment zone. Boom. So then, because of Vital Ground, this one's actually going to go away. Do I want to draw on the screen, guys? I think I do. Everybody loves it. I love it. I'm going to be the John Madden of 40k. I'm going to be eating turduckens. right on screen, just a big fat turducken. Uh, so this one goes away, right? And then, boop, that's not the right picture. And then at the end of each command phase, the player whose turn it is scores victory points as follows. You score 2 if you control your own, you score 5 if you control a no man's land, and you score 6 if you control your enemies. Yeah, no worries, man. I'm all about helping and teaching. I used to run my own game store, and I have really spent a lot of time building a 40k community in my local area. And I've interacted with a lot of people, both just getting into the hobby, getting into new armies, teaching editions. Like, I love 40k as a game, but I love 40k as a community and a group activity more. So anything I can do to kind of help that interaction just makes me happy. So I'm more than happy to help you out, man. So you'll get. Oh God, why did I do that? So they'll get 2 points. So 2 points for sitting on your own objective. 5 points for controlling a no man's land, and then 6 points if you control your opponents. The player whose turn it is scores victory points as described above. And then if you go second, you score them at the end of the turn. Blah, 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 blah. Pretty standard fare. So our terrain layout is either going to be this, and we're just going to ballpark this. We'll have one objective there. Look at that. I think the other one's like right in this area. One's like right up here. One's here. And like here. Right? It's somewhere in there. It might be like this. But yeah, it's somewhere in this vicinity. And again, this one in the middle will go away. And then we'll get 2 for the one in the DZ. And we'll get 5 for one of these. Is it one or is it each? Boop. For each. So, you could, theoretically, if you control all the objectives, score 5, 10, 12, 18 victory points. I'm not going to be able to do that. I know this. My opponent is Gene Stealer Cult. I have not looked at Gene Stealer Cult yet, so we're going to dive into that together too for a little bit. We're not going to look at all the units. We're just going to look at their core army rules, and then I'm going to kind of tell you what my game plan is. And if I'm way off, man, feel free to let me know. So, I don't have the GSC downloaded. Actually, let's get that. Gene Stealer Cult 10th Index. I've heard it is bonkers and it is ridiculously good. All right, Warhammer community. I am struggling using the computer. All right. Do they have this update? No. Why don't they have the American version updated? Index. Here we go. Gene Stealer Cults. Let's download that beast. All right. So they have Cult Ambush. I haven't looked at this at all, so I have no clue what's happening in here. If your army faction is GSE, each time a unit with this ability is destroyed, roll 1d6, adding 3 on a 4-up. So battle lines, it automatically happens. That unit is placed into Cult Ambush, and you place one Cult Ambush marker anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches horizontally away from all enemy units. If this is not possible, no marker is placed. So if I can cover the table. Okay. I appreciate that, Drag Ice. I'm gonna and this is one where I probably don't use my Archon ability on the Overwatch strat. I probably use it on the thing that lets them bounce 2 units. But we'll kind of look at that because I know that strat exists. I just don't know much about it. If an enemy model ends any kind of move within 9 inches of an ambush marker, That is removed from the battlefield, and then at the end of the reinforcement step of your next opponent's phase, if any model ends any kind of movement within 9 inches of a cult ambush marker you placed, that marker is removed from the battlefield. Interesting. So my fire and fade is also going to be clutch. And my scourge is being able to shoot and move because I can knock those markers off the table. At the end of the reinforcement step of your opponent's next movement phase, for each of your cult ambush markers that is still on the battlefield, you can select one unit from your army that is in ambush and set that destroyed unit back up on the battlefield using the Deep Strike ability, containing all of its models with their full wounds remaining, with at least one of those models touching that cult ambush marker. Yeah, I think my Scourges and Fire and Fade are going to be real clutch this game. It's going to be interesting. Characters that are attached to a unit with this ability are not returned alongside that unit should it be returned. Okay, so the characters will have to roll for it separately, or do they just not come back? Each time a unit with this ability triggers all rules that apply when a unit is destroyed, for example. Okay, okay, that's interesting. There's a lot of questions on this rule too. I know there is because I've heard it a little bit. I just haven't looked at this, and I don't have to worry about the Brood Brothers because I'm pretty sure that dude's not running any guard. And then they came from below each time a GSC unit from your army is set up on the battlefield as reinforcements until the next fight phase. So they get sustained hits and ignore cover if they come out of ambush or deep strike. Cute. Gotcha. Characters die. Cool, cool, cool. Unquestioning loyalty. Coordinated trap. At the end of the phase, each time model. Okay. One with the darkness. I know there's one where you can bounce, and that's what I'm trying to find. Tunnel crawlers. It's 1 CP, 1 GSC unit from your army that is arriving using the deep strike ability. Your unit can be set up anywhere. Nope, that's a different one. 3 inches away. That's another one that could be a good target for bonus paying extra. 1 GSC from your army that resign. Okay. Here it is. Return to the chest. So none of them are 2. Yeah, there it is. Coordinated trap. I was going to say, every one I've seen so far has 1-2 CP strat. Return to the Shadows. At end of your opponent's turn, up to 2 GSC battle line units from your army or one other infantry unit goes into strategic reserves. Hey, what's up, William? Welcome to the stream, buddy. And hey, Sentinel. Separately, though, they will have to roll on a 4-up. Yep, okay. Thank you, Sentinel. Hey, and real quick, guys, if you're on Twitch, say hi to YouTube. If you're on YouTube, say hi to Twitch. I am multi-streaming, so I'm going to be talking to a lot of different people from a lot of different places. You'll want to use it on Tunnel Crawler so they can't deep strike and demo charge. That's the GSC cheese right now. So the only reason I would probably do it on Return to Shadows is because I just have T3 bodies and auto guns are going to shred me. Gotcha. No, I am watching Twitch. The problem is I need to just move both of them so they're side by side. Let me do that right now. Actually, maybe. Can you get in there? You can get in there. We can get in there. I'm just doing my best to make sure YouTube doesn't give me any money. Okay. Yep, nope. Sorry about that. Like I said, it's the way I had it set up. I had Twitch on one side of the screen and YouTube on the other. And now I just have them side by side. And that actually makes more sense. I didn't even think about that being an issue until right now. But yeah, no, I saw what you said. And just to let everybody know, if you're on Twitch, there's an ad starting in about a minute. Again, can't give you the heads up on YouTube. So yeah, and that's That's why I would use it on tunnel crawlers. Auto guns are going to shred my infantry. They are. And it'll hamper some of that mobility. So I'm going to have to really try to big brain this game and use my fire and fade with my scourges and use my fire and fade strat, whatever, I forget what they're all called, to just like my command points are probably going to be spent trying to get extra movement anywhere I can. Hey, what's up, Proxy Hammer? How you been, dude? Yeah, we're just doing a. Actually, I'm digging into GSC a little bit right now because that's my first round matchup into the league. For everybody on YouTube, Proxy Hammer is in the house. He does a great channel on Craft World. So if you are also a Craft World player, check him out. So yeah, Return to the Shadows. I definitely see what you're saying though. Tunnel crawlers would be a great target. Either one of those are exceptional. I'll have to see. I'll kind of have to see his list because if his list is just a lot of battle line, he's gonna get the demo charges. I can't do anything about that. So I think I just let that happen, and then I just like try to punish him for constantly trying to teleport his units. Because if I can slow his mobility down, my thinking is that I can slow his scoring down. Enhancements. Well, let's look at his list now that we've done that. Right, right, and that's why I'm thinking the only thing I have to deal with that is to just try to keep moving, try to keep moving, try to keep moving. The problem is that I'm just as squishy as him, so it's not going to be good trades for me. That's my list. I know I had his. Where is it? Boop, 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 boop. All right, we'll just pull it up. There he is, Cameron. Let's do it. Uh, yeah, the demo charge. Well, and that's always been kind of their shtick. Like, I've dabbled with them in the past, and I've played against them a few times. I actually hit them at a GT, and man, that dude's super nice guy. He was not enjoying that game, but I took my orcs to that GT, and I just had such a massive table presence that he just couldn't interact in the way that he was used to. He's got God, words are tough today, man. Acolyte Icon Ward. Why do I feel like I already know what this does? I don't get them on any unit, and that's what's rough. Like seeing all these armies that just bring models and units back, and then for Drukhari, the only way to do it is to take a named character, and it's one unit gets 3 models, and it's like, man, it's rough. I don't need to bring them back. It's just if you're gonna give it to me, like actually give it to me. Don't roofie me and call it romance, right? It's what the kids say. I hope not, actually. Um, yeah, and they would be now. And honestly, like, it's weird. I came to the realization last night that I'm not an orc player anymore. And that was kind of a sad realization for me. Like, I'm just a Drukhari player first and an orc player second now. Like, we've just, like, flipped. And it's okay. I love the army. It was just one of those where it's like, man, I don't get to tell people I'm an orc player anymore. Yeah. Uh, I hope not. So you hear a lot of interesting phrases when you're in the military, and while I was in, I heard and picked up quite a few, and that's one of them. And what does he do? Nexus of Devotion gives a unit 5 up Feel No Pain once per battle when you have to remove a cult ambush marker. If one or more models from your army with this ability are on the battlefield. You can place it anywhere within 12 from him. Okay. So it just prevents one from dying. You're not wrong, man, because everything I do still has that kind of orc touch, right? Like, I'm just going to scream at you. Uh, way back in my youth when I played Magic, I was a green player. Like, I'm sure that surprises literally nobody. Okay, so he just lets you teleport a marker before it dies, and then 5 up, feel no pain. So that's actually not that bad. Yep. Boop boop. Let's just drag this over here. That'll be easier. The Biophagus. I've heard this guy's bonkers. Let's take a look at him. All right, auto pistol, chemical vials, anti-infantry +2. Ha, joke's on you, bro. I got T3 bodies anyway. Ha ha. Injector goad, anti-infantry 2 plus. Okay. At least it's not dev wounds. I can get behind this. Twisted Science, while he's leading a unit, it gives them lethal hits. Biological warfare, once per battle when this unit is selected to fight, the model can use this ability if it does. Uh, okay. It's rude. Once per game, he gets 4 attacks that go to damage D3 +3. Uh, I've got I've got a little bit. I didn't bring a lot, and so like the racks get a sniper rifle for every 5, and I actually cut my rack unit down to 5 right before we had to submit lists. So I had 2 sniper rifles at first. Now I only have 1. But the homunculus has a sniper pistol, and his melee is sniper. And I have a couple of sniper units for melee, right? Like Drazar can once per game snipe the homunculus. And Lilith doesn't snipe, but she will just delete a whole squad by herself, which is kind of like sniping. Uh, you know, it's like the most efficient form of sniping. You just kill everything. Alchemicus familiar once per battle. Uh, so you can give a unit anti-infantry 2 plus, which that's neither here nor there. That'll be more relevant into custodes and like marines and stuff. Yeah, that's cool, I guess. They could do that. Nexos. So this is the one everybody's telling me I got to look out for. Let's see what this handsome boy does. And really, it looks like Assassinate's going to be a good objective to take against him. Because then I can just kill and score points, right? Like that's even better because I don't have problems killing things with Drukhari. Where I've struggled is scoring. And again, like that's going to be on the tail end of this conversation. What does this handsome Nexos do? Once per turn, you can select one model from your army with this ability. Okay, so what's cool about this is that the Archon ability supersedes it and makes it cost 1. Which is again why I think doing it on the shadows is going to be the better option, because it's 2 without the ability and it's 1 with the ability, and now he's got to partition his command points in a way he did not expect. Um, so definitely see why kill him 100%. But it is nice to know like this is what he does, and I could just be like, cool. And then at the start of each player's command phase, they can move 1 ambush marker. That's fine. We can deal with that. The battlefield analysis, we can work around that. It's not the best to have to deal with, but at least I know he's not going to be spamming Overwatch with it. Like that's what gets me is when I have to like deal with getting Overwatched. It hurts, makes me sad. Oh my God, there's so many characters. Yeah, we're definitely taking Assassinate. How many of these have lone operative? Probably the saboteur and everything else has to go in a unit would be my assumption. Yep, he's got lone operative. And he's an infiltrator. That's cute. In the shooting phase for 0 CP, provided that model has not already been the target of that stratagem, this allows you to use it. Okay. Once per battle, when one enemy unit ends a normal move or fallback move within 12 inches of this model. Oh, okay. That's fine. Honestly, with my mobility, I might just try dancing around him. That might be what ends up happening, is I just give him a wide berth, both of them. Because I can already guess that he's probably going to try and split the board and force me to walk between them. And at that point, what I'll probably do is we'll probably try to tag him with something big and chunky. Like I'll probably dump because well, I'll have to look at his list. But we may try to dump the incubi out of the raider and then just send the raider at 1. Just to like, okay, now I'm going to charge you. Like if he doesn't use the ability, then I'll shoot it and charge it. If he does use the ability, then cool. Like I'll still just shoot it and charge it. I think that's a good plan. He's only got 3 wounds. We can make that work. I'm with it. So he's got 2 of those. That's me. I was like, dang, he's got a Lilith too? That's awesome. Primus, what does a Primus do? Sing the South Park theme song? God. Sorry guys. I'm kind of a goofball if you haven't noticed. And I assume he's just he's just like a captain. Reroll the hit roll. And then if your army includes 1 or more models with this ability after both players have deployed. And then, okay, so he just lets you put stuff into strategic reserves. I can get with that. Ooh. Yep. And I don't care about the Patriarch. I'm sure it's just I can't imagine it's that different from a Broodlord. So we got the Acolyte hybrids. Those are the ones with the flamers. Yep, flamers. Demo charges. Okay. Have these changed a ton? I can't imagine they have. T4, 1 wound, 5 up save. Deep strike, Colt ambush. Each time a model in this unit makes an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1 or reroll a wound roll of 1 if they're and reroll a wound roll. And then so no, they really haven't changed. Aside from getting some sort of reroll interaction. Heavy mining tool. Okay. It's only 2 attacks. Gotcha. I like that some of these indexes almost read and feel like a full codex, and then some of these indexes are just like, here's a data sheet. Go pound sand up your ass. Like, come on, guys. A lot of acolytes. So, hey, yeah, OC2. Yeah, they're battle line. I expected OC2. I didn't even look. So, gonna shock everybody, but there's a lot of battle line here. Neophytes. Hybrids. All right, so again, these don't look like they've really changed much. A plan generated at the start of your command phase, roll d6. Okay, so they have the Gretchen ability, and then they get to put models back, and then they just have like guns. Okay. Anything super scary? A single shot mining laser that hits on 5s. That's okay. They'll be hitting on 4s probably, or re-rolling with some interaction, which is fine. That's not the end of the world. We can actually work with this. Okay. So they're not inherently terrifying. It's just the bodies, right? Like that's the biggest issue, the weight of dice. We do have aberrants. I need to check out the aberrants, right? And it sounds like some of you have already seen and interacted with some GSC lists. Does this look like a copy pasted list? Because it looks like one to me. Aberrants. He's not running any trucks. Yeah, right. Oh, that's crazy. Auto returning units. Why would I take those? I mean, to be fair, like if I played GSE, I probably would too. When I did dabble with them right before my fire, that happened a year ago. I actually ran them a lot. Again, gonna surprise literally nobody that has ever interacted with me, but I played them a lot like my orcs. Yeah, no, and that's fair too. Is there's like 20 data sheets in the whole index, and 10 of them are characters, so it's not like they have a ton of choices. But that's what I thought was interesting, was like when I played GSC for the little bit like that I dabbled with them, I played them a lot like I would try to play my orcs, and it was a very um, transport heavy mobile shooting army with some good melee support units. And there's no transports, right? He's got the Ridge Runners. They've got the mining laser and one heavy mortar. So the heavy mortar is going to be the one that I have to look out for. D3 or D6 plus 3 shots, and it's blast and indirect. At least it's not heavy. So he's going to be hitting on 5s unless it has something that ignores that. Okay. Flare launcher has the smoke keyword, so it can be smoked. The bear's range weapons have a ballistic skill characteristic of 3. Ah, what? I see. Do you pick one of these 3 things? Is that what's going on here? Any number can replace their flare launcher with a spotter or a survey auger. Oh, and yeah, he's got the spotter. Why wouldn't you? What's the... Okay, what does the other thing do? Smoke. Okay, so you have 3 war gear abilities. I'm reading through these, and I literally see no reason to take the other 2. Each time the bearer's unit has shot, select one enemy unit that was hit by one or more attacks. It ignores cover. Blah, 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 blah. Or you can give it smoke. Or you could just give it ballistic skill 3, which will effectively negate the indirect fire. Right, and why wouldn't you? Right, from a competitive standpoint, why wouldn't you? I can still... no, it'll just hit on 4s. I can't do anything about that. But yeah, it's one of those where, like, this is kind of a dumb interaction. Like, why does this exist when these are your options? Because there's literally no reason to pick the other 2 options while this is on the table. And that's fine. I can work with that. I don't have a lot that's going to be on the table. He can shoot at some witches for a turn or 2. He can shoot at some racks for a turn or 2. Most of my other infantry is going to be in transports. I'll have some Cabalites on the table. And so it's like, it's not the end of the world. It's annoying, but it's not the end of the world. And these things are what? Are they T7 now? Yeah, 8 wounds. Right, and that's weird. And that's the issue with free war gear, right? That's the issue with the way this has kind of like been sigmified. Uh, oh, with the auger. Oh, the mortar. Yeah, it's one of those maybe, man. You can either hit on 5s with your mortar, or you can hit on 4s with your mortar. Um, like it's to me, it's like, do you want more efficient dice on your end, or do you want more efficient dice on your opponent's end? So to me, it's like, I'll take the more efficient dice on my end, because like if I just throw enough dice at you, you'll fail something. Whereas if I'm hitting on 5s, I'm way less likely to even get to that point. And that's I'm not saying you're wrong. I just That's how my brain processes the game. Right. And exactly. And like I said, that's how my brain processes the game, is like, I don't care if there's 0 AP. If I can make you roll 100 saves, you're gonna fail some because it's a dice game. And that's just my approach to the game. That's why I love Lilith so much. Is like, once per game I can give her 12 attacks and she rerolls hits, and her 6s double explode. So I can do these interactions where it's like, I roll like, get my 12 attacks, I can fish for 6s, end up with 30 hits, and then I can put like 20 wounds on something and just be like, guess what, bro? You can't make them all. Nice. Nice. And that's like I said, like that is a very common expression in our play group. You can't make them all. Uh, so and then pure strain gene stealers. What do those do? I'm sure. What? That was not the smartest thing. Did I just spell it wrong? Maybe. Are they just gene stealers? Deep strike, infiltrators, Colt ambush, and they advance in charge. Bro, why can't I get advance in charge on my witches? Oh my gosh. How many points are these? So I know whether or not I need to get mad. All right, let's see how mad I need to get, right? We're going to look and see how many points pure strains are. Okay, that's not so bad. They have a 5-up Invuln. Yeah, okay. I'm not going to be upset. Five Gene Stealers is almost the same price as 10 Witches. I can accept this. Sucks to suck, girl. Thanks, Matt. You're the best, buddy. Uh, right. So, all right. So we know what the mission is. We know what the layout is. Uh, one of the options, right? We have two options for terrain, and I actually just confirmed it with him. I just messaged him, and he messaged me back. So we have this layout, which we're not going to use. Instead, we're going to end up using a player-placed terrain layout. And I actually am working on that right now. And I'm trying to do it in a way that it's like fair for everybody. Instead of players being able to like cheese it, right? Like I'm trying to create a player place terrain interaction that mitigates the mini game within the game. Like, oh, if I lose the player place terrain roll off, I just lose the game. Because that does happen. And especially if people aren't experienced. And I don't want this to be like when we organize leagues, we try to make them new player friendly. So I try to like when we do things like player place terrain, we try to make it so that it is as fair and balanced as possible to not discourage newer players from tournaments. Because for me, that's the ultimate goal is to get them at the tournaments, right? So if they do a league and they have a lot of fun, then we can get them into a tournament and then we can start running GTs and get bigger and bigger events. I can give out more and more prizes and everybody gets happier and happier. Uh, if you're on Twitch, heads up, add in about 7 minutes. So each player will get two 12-inch, or each player will get one 12 by 12 footprint. The little green lines represent how the ruins should look. Now, they can have floors, they cannot have floors. That's irrelevant because I'm not going to be there for every single game of the league to like dictate what needs to happen. As long as players understand this is what they should theoretically look like. So each player will get one 12 by 12 footprint. Each player will get two 6 by 12 footprints. One of those is assumed to be 15 inches tall with zero windows or doors, which means it will block line of sight for knights. So each player will have one piece of terrain that they can place so that they can shut off that towering. And what they do with that is up to them, right? But each player will have one. And that also means, though, if it's 15 inches tall, like you can't fly over it either because of the way fly works right now. So it's one of those where it's, unless you're infantry, obviously, but it's one of those where like there was a lot of thought put into how this should be set up. So one of them is 15 inches tall, one of them is not. Doesn't matter. And then each one will get two 6 by 6 footprints. And then each player will get one armor container and one crater. You'll roll off, you'll place one piece. Whoever wins places the first piece. And then you alternate placing terrain. The terrain has to be 4 inches from an edge, 4 inches from other terrain features. The objective marker can be in the footprint, but none of the terrain walls and none of the armor containers can be on the objective marker, but it can also be in a crater, right? That all makes sense. Outside of that, if you get to a point where you can't place a terrain feature, you will just find the most open area it can go into, place it down, and gently shift terrain as little as possible to try and accommodate the 4 inches as much as possible. So what I mean by that is, like, let's say you can only get 3 inches from the table edge. Put it down 4 inches from the table edge, and then squeeze the other terrain around it just a little bit. Just enough to make sure there's room to get through and maneuver. And the intent behind that is, again, I don't want it to be to where if I place something real janky, I can just make it to where you don't get to place all your terrain. Again, I want to make it as fair of an interaction as possible. And then when you place the terrain, the armor containers and the craters can basically go anywhere. Like, the craters can go anywhere as long as they don't overlap another piece of terrain, and the armor containers can go anywhere. Again, as long as they don't overlap a piece of terrain. They can touch it, but they can't overlap it. And they can touch edges, but they can't hang off of it. So, again, hope that makes sense. Just to kind of give you an example of what we're looking at. So we're going to be doing a player place terrain. I'll actually do a video that reviews that too. But, so I'm thinking, boop, boop. This is our board, right? If I'm here, like, I'm thinking I'm taking Assassinate. And I'm thinking I'm taking Engage on all fronts, because I can get Engage on all fronts very quickly, very easily. And it's one of the easiest things for me to do with my army. Now, the Scourges, I think, are going to start off the table so they don't get mortared off the table before I get to use them. And they have Deep Strike. And me putting them in Deep Strike will keep him honest to protect his borders, I think. I think putting the Scourges in the sky is going to give me a chance to bring them down, clear out the Ridge Runners, and then if I can't clear out the Ridge, like if he blocks them off so that they can't come out, then we're like, that's fine, because it's keeping some of his units back then. He's not just running them forward to get killed. Because that's ultimately, I think, what his plan is going to be, is to just aggressively rush at me as quickly as possible with as much as he can in order to gain ground, score points, and then get killed so that he can bring them back wherever he wants to. And I do think, especially because I can come in from deep strike with the Scourges, I can shoot them and then I can still move them, because the fire and fade ability happens in the shooting phase. So you're allowed to actually move them after they shoot out of deep strike now. And really, if I needed to, I could actually move them 20 inches, because you can fire and fade them, and then you can strat fire and fade them. They stack. There's nothing that says they don't, and they happen at different times in the shooting phase, so you can stack them. So if I need to, I can actually really push for like an engage, or to knock out one or two of his tokens, things like that. So it's one of those where I think that's the play, is to deep strike both of those. I think I keep the Talos on the table this game. I have been putting them in strat reserve. Um, Although it will depend on how terrain lays out. And on the player place terrain, so everybody understands the interaction. The terrain will get placed, and then we will roll for deployment zones. It won't be a I can set up the table knowing what my deployment zone is. And again, that's just to promote everybody to build fair and equally equitable boards. So, but I may see how the terrain sets up before I make that decision. Because I don't want them getting shot off the table. He doesn't have a lot of big scary guns, but he's got enough that, like, it could get a little spicy, a little rough. He does have a lot of infantry, so I think my racks, or not my racks, my witches and Lilith, as long as I can keep them on the table, they're gonna just do the Lord's work. You know, they're gonna be able to clear through whole squads at a time. Because with Lilith, they'll be strength 4, they're neg 2, and so they're gonna just completely push him off his save. So if we can do that, we can mulch. Um, I think the Hellions are going to be a good target for his mortars, but they are 2 wounds, so I think he's going to have a harder time killing those than other things. So it's one of those where he might plink a couple off every shooting phase with the mortar, but at the same time, I just feel like if he's shooting the Hellions, my other things are free to kind of move around and hide. So again, we'll see. We'll see how this goes. I think that's the general plan, though, is to take engage, to take assassinate, and then we don't get super aggressive. And honestly, depending on what he leaves me open, we may be rapid ingressing some what you call it. Ad starting soon on Twitch, guys. We may be rapid ingressing my scourges because when we played like when we played on this player place layout last night, and one of the features, this is a bad example because it's not how it worked, and I also shouldn't have closed out my pen. So we'll open it back up because I like drawing. Right? That's what we're here for. We're here for watching Chris make bad drawings on the screen. It was it was a really like awesome play by me. Like big brain. Gonna toot my own horn here. I was playing Votan, and dude had a hecaton that he moved right here. And this is just an example. I actually he left me just enough space here to bring these in his movement phase. And so what ended up happening was he left me that, and then in my turn, he left me a hole over on this side where my Talos came in, and then he left me a hole right here where my other Scourges came in. And he did overwatch those Scourges, but that's why, like, he let these come in, and then I still brought those in because I was like, all right. And then they just, like, that Hecaton evaporated. Between the Talos and the Heat Lances, it just evaporated. That's gonna be rough. Is like my Heat Lances. The only thing they're gonna be good for is killing aberrants. Because like they've got a 4-up feel no pain, but when you're doing D6 plus 3 damage within 9 inches, yeah, hey bro, can't make them all. So, and the aberrants work a lot like the racks do, right? Like it's a 4-up feel no pain, so it's gonna be all or nothing. All right, let's clear this out. So, before we close this out, I have 2 things I wanted to discuss. We can close that out. Oh, God, no, we got to do it that way. I can't erase my own screen. I love this app, but I'm struggling using it sometimes. It's called Epic Pen, for those that don't know. You can open it up, and it just, like, locks out your screen, and you can draw on it, and it is fantastic. I just started using it. Right? That's right. Right? That sounds like a war crime. It's definitely against the Geneva Conventions. So, first things first, I've got, like I said, about 15 games in with my Drukhari, and I came to some very interesting data as I looked through it last night after we played 3 games yesterday. And I lost 2 and won 1. And the data was if I go second, I have a 70% win rate. Do it. Aim at the wall behind him. That's right. I was actually shooting his canteen. That's equipment. It's okay. But no, I have a 70% go second win rate right now, but I have a 0% go first win rate, which is telling me 2 things. One, I'm probably being a little too aggressive when I go first. And what's funny is this is the exact opposite problem that I ran into in ninth ed with Drukhari. In ninth ed, I had like a 70% go first win rate and like a 30% go second win rate until I figured out how to change it and tweak it and fix it. Um, so what's funny is that, like I said, it's the exact opposite problem. So what I'm seeing is that, okay, maybe I'm a little too aggressive, and maybe we need to change what fixed secondaries. It's Dark Kari, Darkari. I don't know. Yeah, right. It's just funny that like I went from basically guaranteeing I win going first to basically guaranteeing I win going second, and the only thing that changed were the army rules. Like I have not changed the way I play. So I just thought that was an interesting interaction. So again, to help mitigate that, I've been taking cleanse for my fixed objectives, and I don't think I'm taking that anymore because I think that's leaning into the issue. I'm having to overextend myself to try to cleanse. So I think we either take teleport homers or behind enemy lines, and it's largely going to depend on like my opponent and deployment zones and how easy those are going to be to score. And then obviously, if we run into an army where I get something like this, where I can just make a million points on assassinate and I just have to play the game, like that's what I'm going to do. Because I mean, generally, when even in ninth ed, if I could just score points for playing the game, that's what I would do. Because like, I just want it to be smooth brain, right? Like, I'm already playing a difficult army. I don't want to make it more difficult by trying to like finesse my points. Like I'm already finessing everything I do. I don't want to have to finesse my points also. So I think like I said, for this game specifically, we take assassinate and we hope that I can kill a bunch of T3 bodies and chew through them fast enough to get to some of his characters. Uh, I've been playing much longer than him, so I'm hoping there's a enough of a skill gap that I can make up for the disparity in index power. We'll see. Because right now I do know GSE is very good, right? Like we all know that it's a very good index, and Drukhari is like, let's be honest, it's a little poopy right now, and a lot of it is because they don't really have an identity. Um, they just have like a couple of good units, and then everything else is either meh or just like bleh. There's not much that's like, oh, this is solid, but you know, like Kabalites are standout. They're amazing. They're awesome. I like cannot talk about them enough. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on that data that I saw, and I thought that was just funny and wanted to share that with everybody. Um, I will get that worked out. I have no doubts about that. I got it worked out in ninth edition. We'll get it worked out in 10th. And then the codex will drop, and I'll have to figure something else out. Because that's how this works, right? It's an ever-changing process. And then the other thing I want to talk about, going back to Drag Ice, was asking about where to start with Drukhari. Um, and again, like I'm just going to touch on this at his request. Feel free to hang out. I don't discourage people from hanging. We're just hanging. What? The lion? Oh, because that's not right. Why is that happening? Sure, man. Evidently something stored in here. Uh, let's try that one more time. Let's just Google it real quick. Games Workshop. And Google is looking funky too. Did we lose connection? Me. Okay. This thing is just being interesting. Yeah, but this is for the lion. Oh, By himself. Okay. No, no, no. I forgot that he was releasing on his own finally. That's what was confusing. I thought it was when I was in a queue to pre-order something for a buddy and my brain just didn't make the connection and I thought we were in what's the word I'm looking for? Like I was hitting my cache and like my computer was just like um offline for a minute. But yeah, no, no, I got it now. Yep. Sometimes it be like that, man. So let's go to here. I'm definitely not at this website though. I definitely don't condone using it as a. This is definitely not what we're doing, right? All right. So we don't need the rules. We just want the data sheets. All right. So if you're just that sounds like the setup to a bad joke. Was it? I feel like it was. GW, I think, did something with that. Archon. So yeah, yeah. So Drag Ice, if you're getting into Drukhari, the Archon's gonna be an auto take. Like I've not seen him be bad in any edition that I've seen it in. Like it's always something you want in your army. Don't worry about the data sheets that are on the screen. They're not going to be accurate to anything. It's just going to load a lot faster from this website, and like I can navigate it easier than trying to do it on the PDF. Again, Drazar, if you're going to take a hard-hitting melee unit, Drazar is going to be in that hard-hitting melee unit. You're going to want Drazar, and you're going to want the Incubi, which is why I think 2 combat patrols is one of the best ways to start a Drukhari army. It'll give you 10 Incubi, 20 Cabalites, and 4 boats that you can build any way you want to. Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm sure it is. You know, like a lion, an elf, and a. Never mind, I can't say that. Um, anyway, so yeah, Drazar, you're gonna want, and like I said, 2 combat patrols is a great place to start. You'll get 2 Archons, which you don't necessarily need, but you can kit bash one into like Homunculus or something else. It doesn't matter, or you can just have 2 Archons. Um, and then like I said, you'll get the 10 Ancubi, the 20 Cabalites, and the 4 boats, and you can build those boats any way you want to. It comes with both sprues, so you can build them as the Ravager, which will give you 3 Dark Lance shots or 9 Disintegrator Cannon shots. Right now, I run mine, like I just have Dark Lance ones. The Disintegrator Cannon was pretty solid in 9th, but I still just ran Dark Lances when I used them. Um, so you can build them as that or the Raider. Yeah, I mean, it's fair. It's fair. A mushroom. Yeah. The Snickrot's new model is super cool. I do have it. I love it. And while I'm not a huge fan of the Orc Index, like it is a solid index in terms of strength, I'm just not a huge fan of it because it's one of those that just like lacks any flavor. Like it was just copy pasted. Um, I was going somewhere with that. Don't know where. Welcome to my ADD. So going back to Drazar combat patrols, very good. Homunculus, you don't need one right away. Like, you don't even have to explore that side of the codex if you don't want to. I love that side of the codex. I run Homunculus and Rax a lot. Um, and so, like, when Tau first launched in ninth, and they were, like, epically busted, right? They were. The only. I won a total of 2 games against that codex while they were, like, horrifically busted. Needed special weapons warriors to book. Yeah, exactly. I actually just got off of a guy, the Cabalites, the Kill Team Cabalites, and they're just Cabalites, but he didn't want them, and they've got like some cool upgrade sprues. So like I got a Cabalite who's got like a Dark Lance and an eagle on his shoulder and stuff. Like it's super dope. I'm gonna be building and painting the rest of that probably within the next couple days. But yeah, you don't have to play it if you don't want to. It is the most expensive side of the army. Racks are, I think, $40 a box, and you get 5 of them, and they come in units of. Right now, they only come in units of 10, but historically, it's been 5 to 20. So they've got like they are just the most expensive side. Talos, Chronos are $50-$60 for one model, and they come in units of 2 right now, but it used to be 1 to 3. So again, so it's that's where the financial investment's going to be with the army. But that is my favorite part of the army, them and witches. Racks, because I think it's hilarious. Don't get a homunculus until GW makes more racks. Oh, I didn't even realize they were out of stock. I actually have like 3 boxes in my pile of shame that I still need to build. Again, so before before the fire, I had 60 of them because I just loved them that much. And what I was saying is, playing against Tau, the one of the times I beat them was running. It was so many racks. I think it was 80 racks, and it was just like, cool, man. Like, you can't kill them all if they all have a feel no pain. And it turns out he couldn't, and it was hilarious. And then the only other time I beat that book before it got any kind of tweaking was actually with the 8th Ed Chaos book. But that was on some really lucky charge dice. Like, had I not rolled a boxcar charge, I would have been tabled the next turn. But I boxcarred a 12-inch charge with my Red Butchers because I was running World Eaters and 8th Ed for a little bit. Well, early 9th Ed, I was running some Chaos for a bit. And it was before the Marine book came out. And I just shredded his crisis suits because it was like, all right, man, I'm going to just put like 150 attacks into you, pick them up. I'm done dealing with these. So, but yeah, homunculus racks, again, that's usually the side people don't explore because they're expensive or, like he said, they're out of stock. You probably will at some point want a witch and some succubi, or some witches and a succubus or Lilith, but they're not mandatory. Like I said, if you only want 1 or 2 hard-hitting melee units, you just want some Incubi and Drazar, and then maybe a squad of witches with a succubus. They don't hit hard right now. The witches don't, but they will. And Lilith hits hard right now. You just have to be smart about what you put her into. All right. Urian Rakarth, he's just a homunculus. Cabalites, again, we just talked about that. You're going to want those. And that's why I think, 2 combat patrols, like we were saying, great place to start. They have sticky objectives. If you get 2 Venoms, you can break them up. You can put 5 in each Venom. The Venoms will have sticky objectives until the Cabalites get out. The 5 Cabalites on the table will have sticky objectives. And it lets you kind of really bounce around your sticky objective grabbing and stuff like that. So it's a very good combo. I run 2 Venoms and I run 20 Cabalites for just that exact reason. We talked about those. I not even going to talk about those. Raiders and Ravagers, those are your boats. Venoms, those are your boats. So again, we talked about those. And that's Grotesques, again, kind of fall in the same line as Incubi, or not Incubi, Racks, and they don't even make those right now. Again, there are some good AOS proxies that I would use. Mandrakes are really good. There's some good AOS proxies. The Warcry box with the little spider dudes. I'll try to hold it up. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. It's this Warcry box. Like, these make really cool looking mandrakes. And I've not had anybody complain about me using them as mandrakes anywhere. They're super cool. That one's not painted, but they're very handy. They can teleport. They have a lot of utility. They can jump across the table. They forward deploy. So they have a lot of good utility. Hellions are a good utility unit, but again, I would probably hold off. That's not one of the first things you would get, like I said. And really, like, Reavers, you'll want Reavers. Like, again, that's a unit that's never really been bad that I can remember. scourges, and then these. You will want scourges, absolutely. So if I had to suggest things to buy in order of importance, it would be combat patrol, and then a combat patrol, and then Drazar, and then Venom, and then scourges and scourges. Like those would probably be the first 7 things that you purchase. The scourges give you so much shooting and firepower in a very small and mobile unit that can inherently deep strike. And again, they are another unit that's just never been bad that I can remember. I'm sure they have at some point, but I don't remember a time where they were bad. And then obviously the Talos, you already talked about that. Yeah, like fiscally, I assume you mean. Uh, and that's fair. I've never bought them standalone. I got them from the box. Like there was a box that came out with them. Was it the Sisters Drukhari box? I think. Had those. That's where I've gotten all of mine because I just split a couple of those. So yeah, that's where I would start Drag Ice. If there's anything else like that won't get you. I don't think that gets you to 2K. In fact, I know it won't. Um, but it's a great place to start, and then from there you can kind of figure out where you want to go. But those to me are like a staple for what you've said you want out of the army, and they're just staples anyway. Like right, especially right now. Like I don't know about any of you, but when I make a Drukhari list, I'm basically just making like 1,000 point list because my first 1,000 points are almost the same no matter what. And then I just have 1,000 points to play with because of the way the army's structured right now. I'd like to see a few changes. I don't know that we're getting any inherent rules changes until the index drops or the codex drops, but I would like to see a few minor tweaks. Yeah, no worries, buddy. I'd like to see the what is it, the potent metallotoxins or whatever it's called. I'd like to see a strat like that get worked in, because that's another weakness that this index has, and that I've noticed in our edition is that we have way fewer stratagems, and they're still not balanced. Like our strats kind of suck. We have lightning fast reactions, whatever it's called now, and then we have what's the other one? The rack one. If you're running racks in homunculus, the -1 to wound. Like those are very good. Outside of that, most of them are like okay. Alliance of Agony is good if you're taking all 3 and none of them die, because you have to be able to target all 3. You have to have the homunculus, you have to have the succubus, and you have to have the archon. So it's like situationally good. But yeah, it's just one of those where like our strats kind of suck. I've had multiple players who like we've played games and they've like, "Oh, don't you have a strat for that?" And I'm like, "Nah, dude." And then they look through our strats and they're just like, "Oh, God, your strats suck." And I'm like, "Yeah." And you're right. And I don't necessarily have an issue with that interaction. What I don't like is that they don't even do that much. Um, boop, boop. Like Prey on the Weak, I can let a unit reroll a wound roll if I'm targeting a unit that's below half strength, which like it's okay, but like I'm personally not running enough Kabalites for it to matter. Because like the Archon just does that when I empower his unit anyway. So it's like, sure, man. And the Venoms don't get. I don't think the Venoms get the sub faction keywords anymore, if I'm not mistaken. Like they don't get Witch Cult, they don't get Cabal, they don't get any of that now. Which also, it doesn't seem like it would be, but it's actually a nerf. Acrobatic Display, sucks because it used to just be an army rule, and now I have to pay a command point for it, and it's 1 unit. Oh, I didn't realize Ravagers kept it. I guess that makes sense because they always had the Cabal keyword. They just couldn't take any of the other ones. Good, Good to know. I did miss that. Thank you, David. Um, Strike and Fade is awesome, 2 CP, but that's 2 CP across the board. I don't think I've seen an army that it doesn't cost 2 CP for, which I'm extremely thankful for. Like, I'm so glad that they just made this interaction pretty much universal. Alliance of Agony, like I said, it's okay. Quicksilver reactions and insensible to pain are the ones I use the most. -1 to wound on my Talos, and then -1 to hit on something when I feel like I need it. Outside of that, I don't use a ton of strats. I will use acrobatic display if I need to get something up the table and charge it, but it's only witches or hellions or reavers, and my list right now only has hellions and witches. So I will use it on like Lilith to make sure she gets to where she needs to go. Yeah, they don't have it. I wanted to see if the Raiders and stuff did. Yeah, so it's just the Ravagers now. But that's a good catch. Thank you, man. To the yeah. So nothing getting like the witch cult or the whatever keywords feels really bad. These get it, and then these won't get it because they're whatever you call it, mercenaries for hire, blades for hire. There we go. So so yeah, that's the plan. We talked about the game plan. I appreciate everybody hanging out. Had a great interaction with everybody in Twitch and YouTube chat. Um, I've got a couple videos coming up this week. I will be doing one video on the tactical cards and just how to use them. So I assume most of you already know. So that one's geared more towards people getting into the hobby or getting into the game. Um, so I don't know in terms of rules because I just don't like aircraft and the way they interact in this game. Let's take a look. Actually, the easiest way is to just search for this tag. So the Razor Wing Jet Fighter moves 20 inches. Each time this model makes a range attack that targets an enemy unit that doesn't fly, add 1 to the hit roll. Poor stinky Marines. Yeah, no, they're in a tough spot, man. I got a buddy that plays Death Guard, and he and I talk a lot about like what he can do to at least score points so that he's not just getting shit on every game. All right, so let's see. It has, what's it got base? It has 2 Dark Lances, missiles, splinter rifle, bladed wings. So 2 Dark Lances. Dark Lances are good. Missiles. Which missiles was it? The Razor Wing missiles? So you either do D6, Strength 6, Neg 1, 2 damage with Blast. So that's not bad. Or you do D6 plus 3 anti-infantry 2 plus with Blast. That's for like termagants and stuff like that. Or, I mean, at least you're not T3, man. No, I get it. I get it. Yeah, I think what really, really hurts about Death Guard is they just don't have anything. Like, there's literally nothing. They have no special rules at all. And then, so it can replace its Dark Lances with Disintegrator Cannons, and it can replace its Splinter Rifle with a Splinter Cannon. So, so here's another interaction, right? This is the inherent issue with free war gear. I could put a twin Splinter Rifle on it or a Splinter Cannon. Now, don't get me wrong. I can get 2 shots with it, and it does reroll its wounds. But this has sustained hits in its 3 attacks, and its 2 damage. Give me one good reason why I would ever take this gun over this one that has better range, better damage, more shots, and sustained hits. So not only can I empower this and fish for 6s to try to get bonus hits, like it's 2 damage and -1 AP. It just like is mind-boggling to me, the decision to make the game free war gear. And I'm very hopeful that that is only for the indexes, because this game was not designed with that in mind. All right, where are we at? Boop. Okay, give me a second. I do want to look up points on it because that's really, it's not bad. Again, I wouldn't play it. I just don't like the way they interact with the game. But you could bring one and you could rapid ingress it. Yeah, no, I just meant because Drukhari is T3, man. Like, that is one thing I will say. Also, if you're on Twitch, ad starts in about a minute. That is one thing I will say is that even though this edition is less killy, which I don't think it is, I think it's just killy in a different way. I do feel like my Drukhari models are dying faster than they did in ninth. And maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm playing it wrong or doing something wrong. But I just feel like things are dying way faster than they used to, even though it's less killy. Unicom. No, it is not worth 170 points. I will tell you that right now, buddy. I hope that answers your question, Drag Ice. I think that's who asked that, right? Yeah. They're cool looking, and they'll probably be worth taking at some point, but they're not worth it right now. So if you like them, get one. You can still play it. It'll do damage. I just mean from a competitive standpoint, it's not something I would put in my list. Once per battle, after this unit ends a normal move, you can select one enemy model. It's just a bobber. So the Dark Scythe is okay. And it does have a two-shot voice. So the bomber actually looks better, oddly. I like that the bombers have better guns than the jet fighters. Well, and I don't think the game's less killy, right? I think it's just killy in a different way. I think if you have the right tools, it's just as killy, if not more killy than it was before. Like, every blast weapon basically doing a d6 plus 3, and then blast just giving you bonus shots almost all the time means that, like, blast weapons are just bonkers, right? They're so good. So it's like one of those where, oh, I have a 10-man squad. I can't run a 5-man. So you're getting a d6 plus 5 shots into it with your blast weapon, which means you're going to, get 8 to 10 shots on average. Like, come on, guys. Like, I don't know. The blast really feels weird. I'm not complaining about it because I get it. But I don't think the blast weapons needed like the D6 plus 3 interaction that you see a lot of. Void Ram. What's the points on this? It's 200 points. So again, this one's probably a little expensive, but if I had to pick between one or the other, I'd take the bomber first. The Dark Scythe, do you get one or the other? You get 2 of one or 2 of the other. I just put the Void Lances on it, man. I'd take those 4 shots at strength 14, neg 4, d6 plus 2. Because now you have tools to deal with knights. Now you have tools to deal with monsters. Because that's, again, one of the biggest issues is that if you don't bring heat lances, if you hit like a great unclean one or something like that, you just don't interact with it. If you don't have heat lances, you don't interact with wraith knights. So that's kind of where I'm at with the jets, though. They're not bad. Like the bomber's not bad. It's a little pricey, but I think all the aircraft are kind of expensive right now, and I think that's just because Games Workshop, as a rules company, doesn't understand how to balance them yet. So they're just going to keep them kind of expensive to prevent people from spamming them until they can figure out what it is they want to do with them. So that's where we're going to wrap up. It's actually past lunchtime for me where I live. I am in Indiana up by Lake Michigan, so it's 12:30 where I'm at. And I appreciate everybody hanging out. Thanks for joining me. Big shout out to all the new subscribers. I'm going to be working on some shout out videos for all of you. We've spiked over 100 subscribers in the last like 30 days. So again, thanks a lot. That's all because of you guys. You're awesome. Have a great day.